And now let's proceed to session 4 with the title Completing Halal Ecosystem via Islamic Finance. Moderating this session is our Mr. Razi Pahlavi Abdul Aziz, and we have our esteemed panelists, Mr. Rafi Hanif, CEO, Group Transaction Banking, CEO, CIMB Foundation, Dr. Hatim At-Tahir, Director, Islamic Finance Knowledge Center, IFKC Deloitte ME, Dr. Hurriya Al-Islami, Executive Board Member, Badan Pengelola Kewangan Haji Indonesia, Mr. Hani Sufian Alias, Chief Industry Development Officer, HDC, and last but not least, Dr. Sami Ibrahim As-Suwailim. فيتفضلوا. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Dina. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. And a very good morning and welcome again to Kliff 2022. And for the day 2, this is the first panel session of the day. We are a little bit behind time, so apologize for that. But we'll try to make this session a very interesting one. Okay, so the title is Completing Halal Ecosystem via Islamic Finance. Okay, together with us, both panelists from Malaysia and also international. Let me have a very quick introduction to the person in the center is Dr. Hatim Al-Tahir, the Director Islamic Finance Knowledge, Deloitte in the Middle East. Okay. And far left is my friend, Dr. Hurriya Al-Islami, the Executive Board Member of Badan Pengelola Kewangan Haji. Okay. It's a Hajj Management Fund of Indonesia. And then virtually from Saudi Arabia, we have Dr. Sami Ibrahim As-Suwailim, Acting Director General of Islamic Development Bank Institute, or ISDB. And then next to me is a dear friend, Mr. Rafi Hanif, CEO Group Transaction Banking and CEO CIMB Foundation. And over there, next to Dr. Al-Hatim, a new friend, Mr. Hani Sufian Alias, from Chief Industry Development Officer of HDC, or Halal Development Corporation. So I go straight to the first theme. Remind everyone that each speaker will have 12 minutes for them to present or to speak on the theme. And then we have about 15 minutes question and answer. You can do that, the question in the Slido, and that will be a wrap for the whole session. Okay? So the first theme is understanding the structure and benefits of halal ecosystem towards sustainable economy. I would like to invite Dr. Hatim. Yeah? I'll just repeat the theme: understanding the structure and benefits of halal ecosystem towards sustainable economy. And perhaps Dr. Al-Hatim can share your view and perhaps suggest what would be the best way to move forward. Over to you, sir.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm glad to be back in Malaysia after a long, prolonged COVID pandemic, and I hope this will be the end of it. Also, my thanks to the organizers. And I think the session is very interesting. The discussion points also very interesting. To start with, I think the OAC marketplace would be a starting point for completing the halal ecosystem via Islamic finance. And I see a lot of opportunities in the digitalization. And I salute our brother Dr. Ziad on presenting on the fintech today. I think the economic transformation to digitalization is a trend now. One cannot think of any synergy between Islamic finance and the halal industry without digitalization or digital platforms and digital solutions. Obviously, the challenge is always in practice harmonization, regulation, standard setting bodies work. And when I thought about this, I also thought about the standard setting bodies like the WAFI, the IFSB, the IFM, the Islamic Rating Agency, and others, will probably should have a broader role in presenting and developing standards and documentations and guidance and the halal food, and not limit themselves to the Islamic financial services if we were to see any kind of synergy between Islamic finance and halal industry. There's no need for replicated efforts. The efforts of the WAFI and the IFSB and the others is well acknowledged, and I think they should play a more role here in guiding the industry and helping Islamic financial services to develop products and also the enterprises. So that's my initial thoughts about the benefits and the synergies, and I'll leave it to my other fellow colleagues.
Thank you very much, Dr. Al-Hatim. Okay, the next theme will be more related to financial service sector or banks and financial institution. Okay, then I would like to invite Mr. Rafi Hanif. Okay, the theme would be restructuring and refinancing halal market. Over to you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalatu wassalamu ala Rasulil Amin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum and good morning to everyone. It gives me great pleasure to be back at Kliff in person. Last day it was a virtual event.
Yeah.
So alhamdulillah, we are back here. So just to give you a bit of a background on SME landscape in Malaysia, we have about 1 million SMEs in Malaysia that account to about 95% of corporate entities in Malaysia. And SME as a whole employs about 60% of the workforce in Malaysia. And alhamdulillah, they contribute about 37% of the GDP and about 17% of exports. But if you look at the halal component, it's estimated about, in terms of exports, is about 30 billion ringgit only. And in the context of the global halal economy, which is valued about $2.2 trillion, or about 10 trillion ringgit, Malaysia's contribution to the halal exports is insignificant. Is just a drop in the ocean, as was mentioned by Dr. Ziad earlier. If you look at the fintech and if you look at the halal exports, the potential is enormous. The domestic halal economy is valued about 300 billion ringgit, but export component is only 30 billion. And just if you look at the May and June data, June we had about 146 billion exports from Malaysia. And it's gone up by 23%. In May was about 120 billion, in June was about 146 billion. And the halal exports collectively per year is only about 30 billion. So there would be some components of the exports which are potentially halal but not being certified as halal. So we are seeing the gap in terms of accessing the opportunity if there had been proper certification. So out of the 1 million SMEs that we have in Malaysia, only 7,000 are halal certified. And I think HDC probably can give more data on this. So what we're looking for is an opportunity for these SMEs to scale up, to be not only halal certified, but also ESG certified. And perhaps there could be a new form of tech called halal tech, that enables the SMEs to get halal certification in the most seamless manner. So the halal tech should be able to provide the playbook how SMEs in predominantly 5 key segments: F&B, cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, tourism, and modest fashion. These are the 5 industries that are thriving in Malaysia. So if these industries can be enabled through technology to get themselves halal certified and also ESG certified, and link this to what we call SME financing. So most banks, including CIMB Group, is actually encouraging all forms of SME financing. And we have a lot of incentives if the SMEs are halal certified, or what we call halal biz ready. And we also try to link in with the ESG certification. And we are promoting this ESG/halal financing aggressively by providing some incentives in the pricing of the financing itself. So if you are a normal SME versus an SME which is halal and ESG certified, the halal ESG certified will be able to get a better pricing in the market. Many banks, including CIMB Group, are going out of the way to promote ESG/Sharia financing and to incentivize people to shift towards this particular segment. We are giving better pricing. So the SMEs need to take advantage of this situation. Like we've seen earlier, the Fitch presentation, the demand for ESG/Sharia financing investment is a lot higher than the supply. So SMEs need to take cognizance of this particular opportunity and avail of all the opportunities, financing, and other what we call market opportunities today. The other point I wanted to highlight is in terms of ESG readiness. A lot of these companies may have halal certification, and it's just one additional step they need to take to ensure that they are also ESG certified. So if you're a noodle manufacturer, so you are in the halal F&B industry, all it requires you is to take an extra step in terms of quantifying your carbon footprint and work with the relevant bodies to get yourself certified that you are managing your carbon footprint and your social and governance aspects are all in line with the prevailing standards. So there are just minor steps that these corporates can take in order to be both halal and ESG certified, and the opportunities for both exports and for financing is a lot greater than what they could achieve if they are not certified properly. So I think the room for halal technology companies is what we call is tremendous, and they should be able to come and grow this halal/ESG industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rafi. I have one question. Later I will ask, okay, about some criteria of financing. Okay, perhaps from financing sector, we move into sustainability, and I would like to cross this to Saudi Arabia. Technical team stand by, and this is for Dr. Sami Suwailim. So the theme that I have chosen for you, Dr. Sami, is Halal Ecosystem for Sustainability in Islamic Financial Market. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Brother Ravi, and thanks to our esteemed colleagues on the panel, as well as all participants in this landmark event of Islamic finance. As Brother Rafi had just highlighted, the ESG and other ethical and responsible financing metrics are already in place, and we are seeing this as a global trend. But the other way around is yet to materialize. So we are still seeing debt self-replication, explosion of debt, debt traps growing continuously, irrespective of the real economy, irrespective of productivity. Actually, as we are talking now, everyone is aware and warning against the debt bomb, so to speak, that threatens the global economy due to the huge debt buildup by countries after the COVID crisis. So we do have progress on the front of guiding finance towards ethical and responsible projects that would observe the environment, observe the climate, and follow the guidelines for healthy products and so on. This is good, but guiding finance itself to be within the boundaries of the real economy, I think that's where Islamic finance comes in. Islamic finance fills an important gap between the subject matter of the finance and the finance structure itself. The convention of no matter of how we develop ESG or how do we develop various responsible or ethical or socially responsible financing, the financing itself, it is still way behind being itself ethical. Debt buildup has nothing to do with the capability of the debtor, with the environment, with various factors. Debt would grow by the clock regardless of the productivity or performance of the economy. So that's where Islamic finance comes in to fill the gap and says we should be responsible on both sides, not only on the activity we are financing, the kind of product, the kind of outcome, being responsible and friendly to the environment, but also the financial structure itself has to be responsible. We have to control debt, and we have to develop systems and structures for risk sharing, for redistributing the burden of financing so that economies are able to withstand these shocks. It's now very clear that debt-based financing is not sustainable. So while we are talking about sustainable development goals and sustainable economic progress, debt financing, the way it is done in the conventional financing, is not sustainable. You cannot have debt grows by the minute, regardless of the economic factors or the capability or the capacity of the economy to produce. So this gap is huge, and it has to be addressed heads on. Islamic finance comes in to fill this gap, and I hope that we can move beyond talks, as Dr. Ziad has hinted, to something concrete on controlling the growth of debt. We really cannot. This is a social dilemma problem. We cannot have one Islamic bank says, okay, I'm doing risk sharing, I'm not building up debt on the clients, while the others are doing this. It cannot be done this way. It's a collective problem, just like the environment and the climate change problem. It's a collective problem. We have to collectively work together and cooperate in order to address the environmental threats. Similarly, we have to collectively cooperate in order to control debt and have it fully integrated with the real economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sami. It's very clear, the message that you have shared, and it's a very foresight and positively shared with everyone. So I would like to invite the next speaker. This would be more on the exploring the potential of financial sector to shape halal industry. So yeah, I believe like any fund managers or pilgrimage fund managers, okay, they would like to have, they need to develop an opportunity for them to invest, okay, in order for them to stay and provide a very good return to themselves and also to the depositors. So this is very important for the organization to explore the potential of investment, and of course this investment, since it's a pilgrimage fund, okay, has to be halal. So maybe you can share your thought, Dr. Huria, on this, and you may want to share the example that we are seeing in Indonesia, who are very proactive in this and has made a very good, significant development. So over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I have prepared short slides, and the organizer told me I need to be by this podium in order to manage the slide,
Please.
if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
Thank you
Welcome.
so much.
Thank you.
That's why you need to have more ladies on the panel. They do the hard work.
Okay. Okay, you have extra time for this. You have extra time for this.
Oh, thank you so
Yeah.
much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah wa syukurillah wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. La hawla wa la quwata illa billah. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. La nabiyya ba'da. Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil, ni'mal maula wa ni'man nasir. Respected chairman and fellow speakers and all the audience. I have given the task actually when I was first contacted for this panel to share, to try to cover as much as possible within the shortest period of time. I was given 10 minutes. Thanks to the kind chairman, he gave me extra 2 today, so 12, to speak about completing halal ecosystem. And the point to be highlighted include halal ecosystem itself, opportunities. I will speak more about that since the chairman actually highlighted on that point as well. Islamic finance for halal market. I may probably skip this because our respected brother Rafi has actually made very strong and good point on that. Halal economy for sustainability, I will cover what is necessary only because Dr. Sami has also made strong point on that, and role of financial sector to shape the industry. Will be quite slightly different because I will also come from the Indonesia viewpoint. Halal ecosystem, describing the structure and all that. Well, we have so many definitions and many people have got different ideas about what are the components of halal ecosystem. In my humble opinion, halal ecosystem is just like, you have financial sector, then you have you have financial industry on one hand, then you have Islamic financial industry on the other hand. So we have halal ecosystem, it's just like the other side of the national economy. But the difference, there is a fundamental difference in the sense that for banking, for financial services, you need to be certified, there is license, Sharia, to offer these so-called halal products and services. But for the normal halal ecosystem, they are the default by right. It's just that now we come up with the halal ecosystem, but even before the terminology was actually introduced and now became very famous, by right our economy is halal. It goes back to the very basic principle, al-aslu fil mu'amala al-ibaha hatta yadullu dalil ala tahrimihi. Everything in Islamic transaction, everything in commercial transaction are deemed to be halal. So a decade ago, I used to give this joke that Indonesian people, they are very husnuzon, they like to presume good intention of other people, because you see when it comes to Islamic product, they want to be sure, even if it is offered by Sharia banks, they still ask, is this really halal or not? Is this really Sharia compliant or not? But when they go to any restaurant, they don't need any halal certification. They will just ask the waiter, is this halal? And when she says yes, they take it for granted. So it's rather the opposite. When we talk about halal ecosystem, it's a default, basically. In the past, we don't need certification, but now certification becomes the kind of quality assurance. That's in my humble view. And there are reasons why people actually opting for halal products and services. It could be religion reason or ethical. Sometimes people think it is more ethical. When you have the halal slaughtered animal, the animal has been treated with respect and therefore it is more ethical to consume them as opposed to the non-halal one. It could also be quality, safety, hygiene, and this is the reason for those non-Muslim, they also opt for halal products. Lifestyle, this is also happening, especially with the new generation. They don't actually really bother about the religion. They don't also care about the quality whatsoever, but it is a lifestyle. This could be seen, for example, in the way how people choose to wear their hijab, for example. It's very much driven by the lifestyle, especially in Indonesia, the way how the halal fashion, it keep on changing and the change quite fast in Indonesia. Again, it's a matter of lifestyle as opposed or rather than religion and quality. But these are only, I would say, the side reason. We have a bigger reason, that is the dollar cents. I always call it dollar cents. And these are supported by the statistic, the data, where we have, it's very small over there, by year end 2021, Muslims spend over 2 trillion in the halal industry, and it is forecasted that it will go to 2.8 trillion 2025. So either you are there or you're missing up the opportunity. Same thing in terms of investment in Islamic economy, it has reached 25.7 billion. For Islamic finance asset itself, by 2021, it has reached to 3.6 trillion, and it is forecasted it will reach 4.9 trillion by 2025. And the import of halal product by OIC by year end 2020 has reached 279 billion, and forecasted to 336 billion in 2025. So it's again, it's this very reason, this data actually the biggest motivation for big companies, even non-Muslim one and from non-Muslim countries, to actually tap into the halal market. And of course, there are also drivers, demand side drivers and supply side drivers. For the sake of because of the limitation of time, I'm not going to discuss this, but please feel free if you would like to get the details. The slide is with the organizing committee, so you can get it from them. And of course, this also has been highlighted by Associate Professor Dr. Zaid earlier, about opportunities for the halal sector. He did also mention about metaverse, not existent, but it is happening. So either we take the opportunity, we take part of it, or you are missing the pie. Because yes, with the global rise of technologies, now the market has become borderless. You need something, you want quality, you can order from anywhere in the world. It's just a matter whether you are patient enough to wait for it to arrive or not. And then with the artificial intelligence, machine learning, this is actually the area where I would encourage for us Muslims to actually go into it, because, well, so many surveys, so many articles have already informed us, eventually will be replaced, most of us will be replaced by the AI. Machine learning is actually more accurate than us as well. So when we get them built by the Muslim, we are hoping that this technology are actually conditioned or actually built in order to further the mission and vision of Islam. An alternative source of payment, supportive halal economy. Of course, we still have the argument whether cryptocurrency halal or not. Some country, even Indonesia, for example, they refuse to regulate it. But at the end of the day, when it comes to all these technologies, either you participate or you are missing out. That's in terms of the dollar cents. On the other hand, you cannot stop people from doing it just because you don't believe in it. Because when the regulator opt for this approach, at the end of the day, if their reason is because they want to protect the society, the public, it will be the public who will suffer the most due to the lack of regulation. And it is happening in some countries, including Indonesia. Islamic finance for halal market, these are the role. I will not go into much detail. Basically, Islamic finance role is to complete the halal market. Rafi has also mentioned even further details to it, so I will just skip it. But this is the point I really want to highlight. We keep on saying halal, halal, halal. We never complete the picture. Because if you read the Quran, if you see the command from Allah to do something halal, it comes with halal and tayyibah, not just halal. You know, and it's the same thing in the Islamic financial services. For many years, we've been doing negative lease approach instead of trying to serve the maqasid Sharia. It was okay. The reason, the excuse we had because, well, the industry was in the state of infancy, but no infant has aged in Indonesia alone already over 15 years. In Malaysia, over 50 years. I mean, That's too old an infant, so no more excuse. But halal and tayyibah. So it's not just halal. And the difference is, this is the area where I would like to, even halal, we are, most of the time, we tend to focus so much only on the substance, only the zati. But that is not enough. So you see, you buy something from your friend, you buy a car. And you think, a car is halal, so you buy it. And you think your transaction is halal, not knowing that maybe he has actually stolen the car. Or he has bought it on an unfair term. The hukmi. So when we talk about halal, this is already high time that we go a little bit further. We don't just take a look at the zati, the substance, but we also take a look at how thing was done or how thing was acquired, the hukmi, whether it is also halal or not, because there's no such thing in Islam just because something is halal, but it is acquired in the non-halal way, it becomes halal, no. But all this while we are closing our eyes to it, we don't want to know further, thinking that, oh, you don't know, you are excused. But let's actually go a little bit further, let's actually be more prudent, and when we talk about halal, take a look at the essence as well as the ruling of the item or the product or services. And then also about the quality. When we talk about quality, we are talking about the internal effects of it and the external. The internal effect, that's it, the substance itself, whether it is harmful or not. If the answer is no, then inshallah it is halal. But you cannot stop there. You have to look further, is it harmful or not to the person who will use it, who will consume it? Because the hukum, the ruling in Islam can change. Something that is something that is generally halal can become non-halal for someone because of specific reason. For example, if it is harmful to you, if you know it is harmful and yet you take it, you cause damage to yourself, and this is not allowed in Islam. So you need to take a look at the substance as well as whether or not it's endanger the user. And the third, about the ethics. And when we talk about ethics, we are talking about the whole aspect of it. The process we are talking about how it is being produced, how it is being acquired or distributed, how it is going to be used, etc., etc. So from end to end. And we are talking about the effects. Effects meaning that we are talking about how the person, the producer, distributor, whoever it is, deal with the object itself. Because that's what differentiates halal meat from non-halal meat. You see, it can be same fried chicken. One is halal because it is treated with respect, with the way how zabiha is supposed to be. And then the other one is not halal because the chicken is being electrocuted. But when it is fried, it is served to you on a plate, you can never tell. But the effects and how it is being treated is also important. Impact to society. So it is not sufficient just to say, oh, this is halal chicken, so I can take it, it's halal. No, but the way the process, will that have harmful impact to the society or not? To the people? To the society as at large? If the answer is yes, then we should avoid it. And when we are talking about shaping the financial industry should avoid helping, assisting, giving financing to such kind of business as well. And then impact to the earth. This is, I think everyone is agreeing on this, the zero carbon commitment, avoiding financing fossil-based fuel, etc., etc. So that's quite straightforward. Well, what I'm trying to highlight here, and I'm hoping that I hope that in this short time, I could actually send the message to many people who are coming from the Islamic financial industry here. I can see some familiar faces. Please, make the change. Do the change. Because if we don't do the change, it will never change. The output will always the same, the result will always the same. People will always think ESG is better than Islamic industry, which is, I do not agree with that. Because if we do as halal and tayyiban, we will always be more superior than mere ESG. ESG definitely part of it, but we are more superior. And I put here the 17 goals of SDG, and then how to shape the industry. Of course, you do the role. They are all detailed at page 9. The parameters halalan toyiban we discussed just now. And the objective, please, no more negative list, no more just avoiding what in Indonesia we call maghrib, maisir, gharar, and riba. Because Islam is far more valuable, Islam has much more worth than just avoiding these three. Not just avoiding maghrib, but also try to serve maqasid syariah, because وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And Allah does not create human and jinn but to serve Him. And serving Him is doing what He wants us to do. And He had already made it very clear. You are here as Khalifah, not as a ruler, not as a king, Khalifah. You have amanah on you, and at least protect, preserve those five: the faith, the life, the intellect, the posterity, and the wealth. And this is my last slide. This is the angle from Indonesia, which is quite interesting in the sense that, yes, while the number has been magical, we have great number. Maybe many of you do not know yet, but the truth in Indonesia, when it comes to business players, 99.99% of business players are actually SMEs. So you see those large companies we have in Indonesia, they represent only 0.01%. So we have 99.99% SMEs as the market players. And out of these total SMEs, the number we have 64.2 million. Why I'm highlighted all these numbers? Because again, we are talking about the dollar cents. Sometimes when you focus too much on the big player, you are actually missing out the majority. And they have already produced, by year 2021, the GDP of that represents 61.07% of the country, which is 581 billion. It's not a small amount. But only 16% are actually tapped by the bank. And this is not even Sharia bank. They don't have the official figure, how many percent. I heard, but don't take me for this, it's only 3% for Sharia banks. And the majority of them, they actually rely on their own capital. But the point I try to highlight here, because we are talking about the role of Islamic financial institutions in this particular session, where are you guys? No, really, 99.99%. They are small, yet, despite not getting the needed assistance financially, they still tap 61% of the GDP. Imagine if the Islamic financial industry is actually really there, being present for them, completing the halal ecosystem. So that's the homework in Indonesia. I hope it's not the homework elsewhere, but we are all together. As Dr. Sami also mentioned, it's not individual, it's always about collective. So you're all welcome, think about it, and I hope we will have a better solution. And hopefully next time, when we have Kliff again, the data will actually show that, yes, Islamic financial institutions are already there. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much, Dr. Huria. It's very interesting to see the final slide, the numbers, the numbers really speaks. And yeah, I mean, 64 million SMEs, and that is like, probably the predominantly largest number in the world. So I guess we know where is our next office that we want to establish. Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause to Dr. Huria. Thank you. Let's not forget, halal industries has a lot of potential as we speak. And this is not the first time we talk about the potential. There are many times that we spoke in the previous events and seminars. But yeah, we have not seen what will be the best opportunity for everyone, okay, irrespective of who you are, whether you are SME, or whether you are banks, or whether you are investors, what would be the right or the best opportunity that you want to be part of the halal industry. So for that, I would like to invite the last speaker for today, Mr. Hani Sufyan, to talk about the opportunity and perhaps the future. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning to everyone. Thank you, Mr. Razi. Being a new friend, so probably I make a small introductions of why I work with. So HDC, or Halal Development Corporations, is a government agency. We report to the Ministry of International Trade and Industry, or MITI. So we were established in 2006 when the Malaysian government at that particular times made an announcement that we want to make the aspirations of the government, we want to make Malaysia as the global halal hub. So the global halal hub's aspirations is all about creating jobs, making people increasing the incomes, and also to accelerate some of the industries. So these aspirations actually translates into the what we are discussing about today, which is the halal ecosystems. Because from the perspective of Malaysia's halal industry developments, the halal ecosystems basically, we have 4 important components inside it. Quite similar to what was shown just now from Indonesia's. The first part, we need to understand where are we heading, the goals. So this is a very important component because everyone or all the stakeholders for halal industry in Malaysia, we should have a common goals of what we want to achieve on a very specific times. So the first one, when in 2006, the goals is to make Malaysia the global halal hub by the year of 2020. And the second component of the ecosystems are the stakeholders. And our stakeholders at the particular times involves the public sectors, which are the governments and agencies, the industry players, and of course the publics. The third segment under our halal ecosystems is the industry itself, because we all know that halal is not just about food. At that particular time, Malaysia's identified 4 important industries that we need to look into so that we can become the global halal hub by the year of 2020. Those industries, the first one, of course, is on the food and beverage sectors, or food and beverage sectors. Second one, we identify ingredients, halal ingredients. So we make a new sector, so we define a new sectors based on cut across industries, and we define halal ingredients as one of the sectors which is important for Malaysia. The third one is cosmetic and personal care. And the fourth is actually livestock. Why livestock? At the particular time, we were already discussing about food security, which we are still facing until today. So there's 4 sectors. And the last part is the enablers. So the enablers is actually the most important part of all this, because this is what the ecosystems is all about. Because we have the industry players, we have the stakeholders, and we have the industries, but the enablers is very important. Just now we speak about, I think many of us also, when I first joined HDC also, when we speak about halal, people speak about getting halal certifications. So you get halal certifications and you sell the products. But for you to get the halal certifications, you need standards. You cannot do just a certification without any defined guidelines or rules on how do you certify a product. So standards and certifications become one of our important enablers. The second part is that people were asking, is it compulsory to do this? For Malaysia, the answer is no. For Malaysia, halal certification is not mandatory, it's voluntary basis. So people start looking into the legislations and regulations. And then people start, when I want to go for halal certifications, one of the requirements is to have halal executive inside my company. So that translates into the needs for human capital developments, the third segment under our ecosystem. And then there are SMEs, because we want to help SMEs to actually take a piece of the lucrative markets in halal and eventually get certified and export their products overseas. But at that time, a lot of our SMEs are operating at homes. They do not have a proper infrastructures, do not have factories. So the fourth one is the infrastructures. So we need infrastructures as well inside our ecosystems. And of course, the fifth part is all about how do we encourage people to participate in halal. So we need a bit of incentives, a bit of funding. How do we actually can help the SMEs especially to venture or leapfrog their investment or their business into halal. And the dialogues with the industry players at that times were discussing about how efficient is the public delivery systems. So the sixth component is the public delivery systems. So this is the origination or the initial steps for Malaysia's halal ecosystem development. So in 2020, before 2020, because our master plan was developed for 2020, in 2017, we review the master plan and the enablers and ecosystems. So the sixth component of our ecosystems, or the enablers, now we have 8 altogether. We still maintain the standard and certifications under conformity assessments. The scope inside it is suspended a bit. We still have the infrastructure, the human capital, okay. And then the thing that we drop is the public delivery systems, because at this particular time we already established what we call as Majlis Pembangunan Industri Halal, top-level governance structure to look into the public delivery systems. So, but we replace the public delivery systems into awareness and promotions, because we realized that over the years we need to do, or we have to do continuous promotions on these sectors, on these halal industries. And the 2 new scopes under our ecosystems is on science, technology and innovations, which is STI, and the other part is data analytics, because we need data to actually help the public sectors, even the industry players, to make decisions in their strategic plans. So this is the fundamentals of Malaysia halal ecosystems. And when we speak into this one, when I first saw this topic on how do we complete the halal ecosystem via Islamic financings, we don't see any Islamic financing inside these ecosystems. But the fact is that Islamic financing is identified as one of the promoted sectors inside our framework. So right now, just now, the first speaker mentions about 5. We actually have 11 at this moment, including the recent one that we launched on the sectors is on the halal medical tourism. So in Malaysia, for example, for banks, we don't certify halal banks. There is no halal certified banks. So common terminology that we use in Malaysia are Sharia compliance. So we have Sharia compliance bank, Islamic services and so on. Halal certified, mostly on products and some services, such as logistics. And the other one is Muslim friendly. I think this is also similar to Indonesia. So Muslim friendly aspects. So regardless of these terminologies, but based on the 11 sectors, I feel that there's a lot of opportunities for Islamic financings and other Islamic economy, alternative fundings to explore with, not just on the products, because traditionally we are looking at how, for example, when I first joined NST, we were discussing with the Islamic banks, how can the banks finance some of the SME and so on. But right now we are looking at how can we do collaboration with Islamic banks to develop infrastructures, halal parks, to attract investment to the countries? Or how can we work together to improve the certification process using technologies, blockchains and so on, things like that. So opportunities is not just on the industry players or the traditional sectors, but also on the enablers parts, the infrastructures. Can we help the human capital development here? Of course, we can do also. So there are also opportunities for us to develop human capitals in Islamic financing, competent also in halal industries that we can actually export to not just for Malaysian market, but also to the rest of the world. I just came back from Jakarta. We discussed about the 64 million SMEs over there, and they need a lot of talents to actually become their halal executive and so on. So we were discussing about how can we collaborate to actually leverage on each other's strengths to spur the industries. So I think there's a lot. For HDC ourselves, we also collaborated with some of the Islamic banks. We have, for example, Standard Chartered Sadiq, total fund of $100 for SMEs going into the Middle East. And with Bank Islam, we help for companies who actually wants to venture into halal certifications, total fund of 100 millions. We explore now a little bit of fintech. I'm not so familiar about these areas, but yes, we collaborated with Microlip, just now Prof was saying, so to help actually some of the SMEs into alternative financings. There are some other areas in one of our survey, for example, in the northern part of Malaysia, Kedah, there's a lot of SMEs, micro enterprise specialists, who use Al-Rahnu as their source of financings. For them, this is more quick, more safer, and more, they have a better understanding about the concept. So this is why I think in some cases, awareness or promotions is very important, because some of our SMEs or underindustry players do not have a good understanding about how Islamic financings or other services can actually help them. A lot of our SMEs or our players in HDC database, when we have the survey with them on why they go for Islamic financings, I would say 80 to 90% is all about emotional decisions, because they are Muslims, though they are obliged to do Muslims, but not on the functional part of it. The functional part, because for example, a few weeks ago in Halal, we discussed about Islamic tourism. So Islamic tourism, we have a lot of packages. People comes here to visit the places, so the facilities is okay. But when we interview some of the tourists coming here, what attracts them is our people, the way we interact with them, the way we greet them. So that actually attracts them. They think that our people is polite, knowledgeable, educated, and so on. So of course, the Islamic values is there, but also more important thing, like Doctor was saying just now, the concept of halal and toib. Halal is on the Sharia path, but the toib is the global values that we also need to promote continuously. So in halal toibs, we refer to the safety of the products, the health conscious of the products, and other ethical values that we are embedding into the concepts. So I guess if you look at the sectors, there is a lot, not just on the traditional sectors, but also on some of these enablers that we actually listed inside our ecosystem in Malaysia.
Thank you, Mr. Hani Sofia. It's good to know that the tourists like Malaysian for their character and behavior, because I always thought that they come here because of the food. Anyway, thank you for your input. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I pick up few important points from respective speakers, and I go one by one, perhaps. Yeah, I'll start first with Dr. Al-Hatim. Okay. So, as I've mentioned earlier, just a little bit just now, that we've talked a lot about halal in major conferences and seminars. We talk about halal industries, the opportunity, the challenges, the strategy to move forward. But the reality is, until today, we have not seen a significant footprint from a global perspective on the impact of halal economy or halal exchange or whatever you want to call it, all the components of halal. You have yet to see, the highlights. Yeah, we talk a lot, but we know that there's a lot of transaction going on, but we have not seen any kind of market leadership, if you want to call it. So how do you look into that? Or do you agree with me, or am I saying something that is not factually right? And what is your view on how we want to position halal as one of an important economic agenda, not just to the Muslim country, but to the rest of the world? Over to you.
Thank you so much. I think that's a very, very direct question, as how the Islamic financial service industry can help the halal industry grow and have an impact. To do this, I personally think that the Islamic banking or the Islamic or the broad Islamic finance should tap into the obviously the SMEs, which clearly drive the halal industry, and it should map their product offerings with the value chain or supply chain development of their products and their services. And I give you just an example, for the livestock, for instance, or poultry farms. Then starting from the slaughterhouses up to the supermarket, there is a lot of different phases of financing where Islamic banks can map their products, short-term, long-term, equipments, financing, like the ijara products, if you like, and just try to help them, grow and create jobs. So to that end, I think Islamic finance should have a clear strategy for developing SME products geared to the small farmers, the dairy farms, livestock, and so on, and other businesses, whether it is Islamic tourism or cosmetics or the other major sectors in the halal food. But unless the Islamic banks have a clear strategy of developing these sectors and developing products for their needs, it will be just talk, and I don't see any way around this. The ISDB, and of course our brother Dr. Sami is here, have recently published a report about the digitalization of agriculture sector. This is very interesting, and I invite you all to go and read that report, which highlight the the opportunities for digitalization in the farming sector, which is a core part of the halal food, or halal industry, as we can see. So, just to conclude, the supply chain financing is a big opportunity for Islamic banks, not only offering financing, but also on the takaful side, and on the waqf side. I mean, uses the other Islamic tools or instruments for that.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Hatim. You touched on a very important point, which is the supply chain management and supply chain funding. I think it's very clearly, as far as the commodity is concerned, a halal commodity is concerned, without this factor, nothing is moved. Yeah? Thank you very much. So before I go to my dear friend Rafi, I would like to cross again to Saudi Arabia, to Dr. Sami Swailim. Doctor, yeah, let's talk about, this is again still in the ESG or sustainability agenda. Let's talk about environment. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have seen in the recent past, not even long time ago, in the recent past, we have seen a lot of, how to say, a weird or incredible climate change that happened globally. In the West, we've seen what happened in UK, okay, the heat wave. And I've been told that, in some part of UK, we can see a dead animal on the street. Ladies and gentlemen, this is something that we have never seen before. Because of the heat wave, even the dogs or the cats on the streets, they just couldn't stand it and they just died there on the spot. So here is a concern, yeah? Coming back to the agenda of halal, okay? Would you see, Dr. Sami, that now or perhaps in the future, we put, a halalness into something that we want to get, okay, include our responsibility to the environment? How do you look into that? Over to you.
Thank you very much again, Brother Ravi and colleagues. Obviously, the environment is an integral part of the halal and ESG. However, I would like to warn against over enthusiasm into this area. I mean, we are all supportive of the environment. We are all, supportive of Mother Earth, so to speak. But then people realized we really cannot move into sustainable energy or renewable energy within 5 year or 10 year, even 10-year period. It will take more than that, and it will take a lot of planning and disciplined and gradual, transition from the current system into the new system. So the same thing would apply, in my opinion, for halal. It's obviously we are all supportive of the vision of a halal economy. However, if you imagine all Islamic banks at once financing halal projects, I mean, certified halal, obviously it has to be halal anyway. But if we put pressure to move into a very restrictive area that would require technical infrastructure, requires a lot of hard work overnight, it might backfire. At one point in time, those venture capitalists and some or private equity investors, they jumped into the SMEs and microfinance only to make them fall into deeper and deeper debt. Why? Because that's how to make quick returns on these investments. So we have to be careful. We have to balance the vision with the gradual transition toward the vision that we are looking for. And that's the difference between emotional decision making and rational decision making. If we are rational, then we have a vision, we have a commitment, but we have a gradual, consistent plan. If we are emotional, today everyone wants to do this, and then within a few months we realize, well, it's not that easy, so we forget about it and then start looking for something else. So I would suggest that authorities, decision makers, policymakers, to develop plans, medium-term plans, how to transition the economy or financing of Islamic banks towards halal economy in a gradual, consistent manner. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sami. So, yeah, I think for something like environment, I think we have to put more thoughts on what would be the right legislation or right methodology to control the behavior of the industry so that it can protect the environment. Agree with you. Thank you very much. Okay, we have about 10 minutes and then we have a few questions up there. But before we go to the question, I need to ask Brother Rafi on one potential financial or investment structuring idea that I've been discussed a lot with a lot of investors. They are talking about financing or investment into the halal SME. But what they have brought or what we discussed is that it's a joint between equity or funding and also financing. Let's say you have an agency that invests into SMEs, okay? One of the criteria is that if you get a financing from a bank, okay, or, for your working capital, we will come in and to empower or to put more strength into your financial need by putting into funds or equity investment. So it's a mix between equity and financing. Do you think that this is something that we should explore, or is it like no way to go? Or yeah, please, from a banker's perspective.
I think it's a great question, and it dovetails into what was mentioned earlier by Dr. Sami in terms of the proliferation of debt compared to the risk-sharing mode of financing. The biggest challenge we see in terms of appetite for risk-sharing is that when the corporates are small, at the startup stage or even at the small and medium size, they are more open towards equity because at that stage, particularly at the start to mid-tier stage, the ability to raise debt financing is harder because they may not have enough financial track records, collateral, and so on. So banks typically don't want to give large exposure to those segments. So the appetite for risk sharing is a lot higher. So naturally, Islamic finance should be able to do more risk sharing with them. But the problem with risk sharing is you've got to share the profit and the loss. So while we want to go for the profit sharing, we have two major problems. One is the agency problem as well as the asymmetric information. So as a provider of capital, we trust on the agent to do what is right. Sometimes you find good agents. They are really trustworthy. They comply with all the requirements, but they may not be business savvy. So what we find is that we have really good Muslims, but they're not good businessmen. And often you find there are good businessmen, but they not be good Muslims. So they would not disclose the right information. They might be hiding the profit to show a loss so that they don't have to share more with you. So the agency problem is one issue. Can technology help to reduce the agency cost? That's one area. The other one is the asymmetric information. That we, as capital providers, may not know enough about the business that the agent is bringing to the table. And to what extent we can really give the capital and trust when we don't have the full information, and to what extent technology again can play a role to bring down the asymmetric information problem. So if these two challenges can be resolved, there could be more opportunities to scale down debt and bring more what we call risk sharing. Then you look at the other side of the coin. When the SMEs grow to become larger corporates, they shy away from equity until they exhaust what they call the leverage ratio. Banks will be going after them with all kinds of debt financing. And for them, these bigger companies, debt financing is more attractive because they can get lots of benefits. They don't have to dilute their equity ownership. They don't have to share the profit. And often the cost of debt is a lot higher compared to the cost of equity. And you also get tax benefits. If you borrow, it's tax deductible. If you do mudaraba, you have to pay mudaraba dividends net of tax. So effectively, you are increasing your cost of operation by doing more risk sharing. So we need to see parity between treatment of dividends and the treatment of profit or interest payments under debt financing. So these are the dynamics that we are facing now. So until we find clear, conclusive solutions to both the risk sharing, how do we solve the agency and asymmetric information problem, and how do we build the parity between the tax treatment on debt as well as equity financing.
Yeah, thank you. You can pass to Dr. Hatim. Yeah. Okay. You're saying? Please ask.
I mean, whether it's mudaraba.
Dr. Hatim, perhaps the rest wanted to hear your question. Can you put your mic?
Thank you. I was going to ask Rafi, what about musharaka? I'm also mudaraba, but it seems that same issue.
Yeah, so mudaraba is a sort of a fund management. So I'm a manager, I get funds from my investors and then I make the investments. Musharaka is where it's a JV. Both of us, you and I, put equity. I'm the active partner, you are the silent partner, but as a silent partner, you trust me on the agency as well as the information. So that's where it's the same problem. Yeah.
Thank you very much. You see, the needs for this, as I mentioned, after seeing Dr. Huria's final pitch on the 64 million SMEs and 99.99% SMEs, yeah, I got a feeling, I could be wrong, predominantly they may fall into the unbankable SMEs. So this is bank, I'm talking about investment. So how does investment fit in to those unbankable SMEs? So this is something that we need to discuss again. Yeah. Okay, small time left, little time left for the question and answer. I've seen there's a redundancy in the question. Okay, I have I've combined some of the question into one general question that I would like to ask Dr. Huria. Okay, so basically, some pattern of the question are asking whether it is, when it come, let's say, when we talk about monetary system, they are, centralized and decentralized, as you know, yeah. But now about halal certification, would it be good to maintain or to create a centralized system, or would it be like, how do you call it, a very open system or decentralized system where people can look into having their own expert to ensure that their product is halal. So we are talking about this help on the countries that have a minority Muslim. Like in Korea, for example, they have their own association to certify halal. Would this trend, as opposed to the majority Muslim countries where they are governed by authority in ensuring halalness of the commodity, what would be the best way moving forward? Over to you. No slide, please. Just answer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ravi. Oh, well, we heard the first speaker today talking about standardization, and there is very much when it comes to international and global level what the Islamic financial industry is missing. So if it is up to me, I would say the best is for us to have actually a standardized halal approach at the global level, which we are still missing. And if we are talking about the master plan of halal economy for Indonesia, there is this initiative for at least maybe for the Asian standardized halal certification, which one of the steps mentioned in the master plan is Indonesia would like to lead on this, since we are already, leading on the Wakaf initiative, Zakat initiative, etc., etc. So standardization is very important because, people have some doubt about Islamic finance, about halal market and all that. So having a standard, a recognized one, it's like a stamp of quality assurance. So that is very important. Now, the question, the next question, whether or not this is it is doable or not to do it for regional, if not at the global level, at the regional basis. I would say yes, because unlike Malaysia, in Indonesia, which is, by the way, being a country with the 13% of Muslim living in Indonesia, and we have 277 million people live there, 86% of which are Muslim, Indonesia is the largest target for halal market in the world. And we have the law that specifically stipulated, if you want to send your product, services, whatsoever to Indonesia, that's when if you try to tap our market, you have no choice. It has to be halal certified. So regardless whether in your country is optional or not, you want to tap our market, it has to be halal certified. Therefore, this could actually be one of the reasons Indonesia can lead. It's just that, our master plan is great. It's a well-researched one. If done correctly, we could really, tap right now we are the target, the largest target. We could be the target producer, in fact. But, the synergy and alignment is still somehow missing, somehow lacking. Priority, focus is also still, it could be better improved. So, well, I still believe that standardization, regional level positive potential, and, at this level, why not make certification is compulsory? Because, people are so used taking the word for granted. As I said, you go to Kedai, you buy this pecel lele and you ask, it is halal? And they say halal, you just, So yeah, I mean, now people talk about quality, resilience, sustainable. It is also important to make sure not only what we wear, not only what we use, but what we consume, whether or not this can actually ensure whatever resources available now will be available for the next generation. So yeah, certification will actually be able to facilitate that. And Mr. Chairman, if I can just take that, sorry about that, because I think there was a misunderstanding from what I convey. I never suggest that we have halal certification for Islamic banking products, no. I should have done the quote unquote. What I mean is, for the Syariah, in Indonesia we call it Syariah products and services, and here we call it Syariah compliant product and services, to be halal. Halal meaning acceptable according to Syariah. That is Syariah compliant, your term here. Indonesia is Syariah. You need certification in the sense that the bank need to get the license that you are doing halal, Sharia compliant services. And I have a very fundamental reason why I'm trying to avoid the term Sharia compliant. Because to a certain extent, I believe this is the crook in why we are where we are today. Because when you say Sharia compliant, you have this tendency to focus on the transaction and check whether there is anything wrong with transaction that is not acceptable to Sharia. Because your parameter only compliant. And this is where I said the Maghrib, Maisir, Ghara, Riba, we are so focusing on this. As long as the negative lists are okay, you don't actually cross those, then you are fine. You call that Sharia compliant. But is that enough? With the pandemic, Sharia compliant, but Indonesia is, I give you an example, Indonesia is the fastest sinking city in the world. You keep on giving financing for people to build a house. Is Sharia compliant? Yes. But it is Sharia or not? It does not serve the maqasid Sharia. What the purpose of you having all the money and you live underwater?
Okay.
So
Thank
give
you.
it a thought.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Huria. Okay, I summarize again the whole question, and this is for you, Mr. Hani Sufyan. In 60 seconds, how do you describe the best process to produce halal certificate? Over to you. In 60 seconds. If not, you're not halal.
First thing is that halal certification in Malaysia is issued by JAKIM. Okay, again, it's not mandatory, it's voluntary. So in terms of the best ways to do this is to, in my personal opinion, is to make it more transparent. Right now we are looking into technologies such as blockchain on creating a better access or better declarations by the players to have these products certified and validated by the authorities. In terms of the, auditors, this is something that we can learn from other parts of the world, the way they do audits, which is to empower some of the qualified personnel to assist the certification bodies in assessing the readiness or compliance of certain companies, and the information still can be uploaded into certain technology platforms so that this can be assessed in a timely manner. So this is my thought.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I hope it addressed to those who are asking a question. It is not HDC that produced the halal certificate, but it is some other authority in Malaysia. Okay, with that, I've summarized into 4 words for this whole session. In order for you to achieve a very strong halal ecosystem, you need to have a good halal framework, okay? A good halal people, okay? A good halal technology, and finally, a good halal luck. Good luck, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you to our moderator and our esteemed speakers. We would like to invite now Tuan Haji Makhtar Abdullah, CEO of ASAS, to present the mementos. One pose for the photographer. Round of applause for our moderator and speakers. Thank you again. Now, before we take our morning tea break, I would like to remind you of the lucky draw, the 4 books that is worth 400 ringgit. Please be in at 11:30 and we will show to you the QR code. You can scan and answer the 2 questions. The first person to answer the 2 questions will be entitled to win the book. With that, I see you at 11:30. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.